Monday night's loss to the Rams is just more proof that Matt Nagy is struggling to coordinate the Bears offense. And it's time for a change. At 5-2, they owe it to the defense at this point in time. Make a switch, see if it sparks the offense, and take it from there. We're going to get into that and more. I'm Dan Durkin, and this is the All 22 Review.
What I still don't know about Matt Nagy after 40 games is, can he only call the scheme he learned from Andy Reid, or can he build upon that scheme and adjust to the available talent? I'm starting to think he can only teach the scheme he learned, which is problematic for the Bears, and that's why you're seeing this offense still without an identity in his third year of the install. When Mitch Trubisky was the quarterback, he had the excuse of the learning curve and not knowing all of the nuances and the details needed to run this offense effectively. But when they brought in Nick Foles, those excuses went away. He knows this scheme per Nagy and all of the new coaches that have been brought in, but the offense is just as dysfunctional as it was with Mitch, now with Nick Foles. So we know that the long term answer at quarterback isn't on the roster currently. But now we have questions of, is the long term play caller on the current coaching staff? And I think it's time to find that out. And the only way the Bears are going to find that out is if Matt Nagy stops calling plays. Whether it's temporary or permanent, it needs to happen. This offense is disorganized. There is no base scheme. There's no identity. Players aren't being properly utilized and their skills aren't being accentuated by play calls. Plays don't build off of each other. Week to week game plans are hard to discern and understand exactly what it was that they were trying to attack. So it's time for Matt Nagy to step aside. Quite simply, an offense's job is to score points. And since Matt Nagy's taken over in 2018, the Bears just haven't scored enough of them. When you really focus in here, they're in the bottom third of the league in passing and rushing touchdowns. And what makes this even more unfortunate is they have 9 defensive touchdowns over this span, which is the fourth most in the NFL. So it's time. It's time for the Bears, and more specifically Matt Nagy, to hand over play calling duties to somebody else in his staff, much like his mentor Andy Reid has done both in Kansas City and Philadelphia, all for the betterment of the team. Nagy's deficiencies as a play caller were amplified this past Monday night when he faced up against Sean McVay. So let's get into a little bit about what I noticed about the difference between these two teams and the plan that was installed for this past Monday night's game. Sean McVay's scheme to this point has consisted of condensed formations, the quarterback typically under center, a lot of 11 personnel. And what he likes to do is make plays, whether they're a run or a pass, look the same for the first couple clicks of the down. What does this do? It makes it hard for the defense to actually key in on what the play is. And sometimes you can really create flow one way only for the play to be booted out or brought back the opposite direction of what he is showing. And so the first play of the game, the Rams run jet motion. So what is jet motion? It's effectively bringing a receiver across the formation. What does it do? It creates a quick formation change that the defense has to react to. It could also be a coverage indicator, so it can give you an idea of what the defense is showing, man or zone. The Bears chose to react to jet motion by spinning their safeties, so swapping one from high to low, and you'll see that on here. What this motion does also is it allows blockers to hook the defenders and it creates some pretty defined running lanes. But another thing you'll notice here is this run goes away from Khalil Mack, which is something I want you to pay attention to in these subsequent clips after this. So here's the Rams' first play of the game, an easy outside zone run for 11 yards and a first down. 2 plays later, the Rams are in the same personnel grouping, but just in a different formation. This time they bring Cooper Kupp in jet motion from the opposite side. They show outside zone again away from Khalil Mack, but this time they're going to boot off of it to the backside and run a 3 level stretch or a flood route to the opposite side. The tight copy shows that at the time of the boot, there's only one player on the outside of the hash mark, making this an easy completion to Robert Woods. The wide copy shows the flow of the Bears defense, which follows the outside zone action. This is easy yardage for the Rams and an example of how one play sets up another. Here's another play action off of outside zone. This time, two of the crossers are coming from the back side of the route with one deep route to Van Jefferson. Again, getting Goff out of the pocket, neutralizing that upfield pass rush that you've seen from the Bears this year. The Rams' first touchdown of the game is a perfect illustration of what I think is the biggest difference between Sean McVay, a guy who is coordinating an offense, versus a guy like Matt Nagy, who is calling plays seemingly at random. There's a big difference between the two. On this particular play, this is just a quick snap out of a delayed huddle. So the Rams give the illusion of an equal distribution, meaning that they have their receivers on both sides of the line of scrimmage. But if you pay attention here, Darrell Henderson, the running back, breaks out of the huddle to the right. They hide Josh Reynolds in the backfield. The Bears are in man coverage on this play, and so Buster Screen doesn't ID his man, Josh Reynolds, until it's too late. By the time the ball is snapped, Reynolds already has him out leveraged to the flat. So this is just an easy touchdown against a really tough red zone defense in the Bears. Kudos to Sean McVay for scheming this up and just very crisp execution by the Rams. So in summary, when I think about McVay's game plan versus the Bears, outside zone and stretch plays, typically away from Khalil Mack. And then off of those, I always talk about building off of plays, play action off of those outside zone plays. So getting Goff out of the pocket on those bootlegs off of the outside zone plays, that creates like little half rolls and opportunities to minimize the Bears pass rush. He's not a stationary target in the middle of the pocket. He's rolling out. He's making defenders move and chase to get to him. It's a big element to this game plan that I think worked very well for the Rams. Jet motion to test the Bears' communication and assignments. Are they adjusting appropriately? And then also to use their fast flow against them after the ball was snapped. And just like the touchdown that we saw from Josh Reynolds, a good use of tempo to keep the Bears on their heels. Now you flip it and try and think about what Nagy's game plan was against the Rams, and I draw a blank. Look no further than the first play of the game. You run duo at Aaron Donald. Why? What is the thought process here in running the ball at the Rams' best defensive player? And then you follow it up with another duo run on the next play at Aaron Donald. While we're on the topic of Cordero Patterson, excellent kickoff returner, explosive athlete, but this experiment at running back has to be over with. Look no further than the 4th-and-1 play that the Bears had with 10 seconds left in the third quarter. They ran a flip toss to Patterson to the short side of the field. There is so much wrong with this one play, and I want to get into it. I could pick from so many plays from this game, but I'm just going to pick a few that I think really show just how Nagy doesn't have a good grasp of the players he has available to him and how to use them appropriately. So this play is blocked like a crack toss. That means left tackle Charles Leno is going to release and get to the outside to block the cornerback. So this play effectively hinges on wide receiver Javon Wims to block the play side defensive end. Left guard Rashad Coward, he blocks nobody on this play. Jermaine Ifedi tries to cut Aaron Donald and misses the cut. Right tackle Bobby Massey gets away with a hold on Aaron Donald. So when the play actually manifests, there is no blocking out in front of this for Cordero Patterson to do anything. This is just a really poor play design in a crucial moment, but so emblematic of how Matt Nagy just has not figured out short yardage situations. And I kid you not, they should truly consider, given their struggles in short yardage, bringing in a package of zone read and letting Mitch Trubisky run that in these situations. If he's just going to sit on the bench, you may as well find a way for him to be useful. The other play that left me scratching my head was the interception that Nick Foles threw in the red zone. The Bears' red zone struggles are real. They're one of the worst in the league this year at converting touchdowns in the red zone. But more than anything, I want to point out the personnel choice that Matt Nagy made in this particular situation, especially Demetrius Harris. Jimmy Graham has emerged as one of the Bears' legitimate red zone threats. So why in this instance do you have Demetrius Harris in the game at all, especially if he's just going to block? He doesn't even run a route on this play. So really struggling to understand in a two-man route combination that ends up being a jump ball situation, why you choose to throw this to the shortest player on the field at this point in time in Darnell Mooney. Don't get me wrong, Darnell Mooney is emerging as the Bears' second best threat in the passing game, just struggling to understand the decision to bring the personnel into the game that Matt Nagy did, and then obviously the decision that Nick Foles made on this. Never should have thrown the ball against cover three. The slot corner carries the route of Darnell Mooney and the corner route, so this play is double covered. It was never open, so just a really questionable decision from a personnel and obviously from an execution perspective in another crucial moment for the Bears.
40 games in, and this offense still doesn't have an identity. There's no flow to the play calls. What's the weekly game plan? What have you identified in your opponent that you're going to try and exploit and attack? How are you getting the ball to your playmakers in space? Are you doing enough to pry receivers open? Right now, I see a low average depth of target and tight window throws. That's a tough combination. And just like I tweeted during the game, everything looks difficult for this offense right now, and that's why they need a change. I'm Dan Durkin, and this is the All 22 Review. Thank you for tuning in.